Virgin Records, ultimately the parent company, UMG, purchased Downtown, which includes CD Baby, Fuga, Song Trust, a lot of the companies that support or service independent artists. For the people painting the doom and gloom picture of like it's over for the indies, like I don't ever hear anything after that. I mean, the majors already have pretty much control over Spotify. That's why we can't move to a user-centric model. It's why a lot of things don't happen.
What's going down? We're back on the NBC podcast. As you can see, I'm back to doing the intro because I don't feel a coughing fit coming on, but it could happen. Anything could happen. Glad to be back. Shout out to everyone that's joining us on the new podcast channel. We really appreciate that. And a huge shout out to everyone that's taking advantage of the free music distribution, because we are still giving you 3 free months of premium music distribution. So get your beats on Spotify, get all your songs on Apple Music, Tidal, everything for free. You can upload a lot of music in 3 months. Go to tolost.com, use the code MEC. We have so many codes. I almost said at odds again. Use the code MEC for 3 free months. How are you guys feeling? It's kind of post-holiday, pre-holiday. We're in an interesting space right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. The holiday was cool. Unfortunately, my wife had to work, so I made my rounds myself. But she's off all of next week, so get a chance to relax and work on a lot of stuff for Big Josh, since 2 Lost offices are closed for 2 weeks. So need this time to prep and prepare some things, because we're going right into shooting a new web series in January. So kind of worked out perfect for me. So I'm feeling good. How about you, Aaron?
I hopped in the car with my parents yesterday thinking we were going to my older brother's house. My parents are pastors, and they ended up delivering gifts for 3 hours all over the south side of Atlanta. And I was like, yo, love this, but I did not sign up to be an elf. But aside from that, it was great. I got to see my oldest nephew. I saw my nieces and nephews the day before as well, and then I'm going to see my nieces today. So I've been spending a lot of time with family. Saw 2 of my 3 brothers yesterday, and I have 37 things left to do on my to-do list before the year is out. So I'm here at my co-working spot in Atlanta, and after we record, I'm gonna try to knock off at least 10 things. You know, I'm just trying to like keep it moving, but I'm feeling good. I'm anticipating so many good things. And then I was just thinking this morning, I'm like, I think this is the most mentally prepared, just like overall prepared I feel going into a new year. I'm not a big like start things in January type person by any means, because it's cold and everything is dead and I need things to be alive and fresh around me. But I do feel like, oh, okay, like I have a plan. I have metrics. I'm just like really excited to head into the new year. But my previous holiday was already great, so I'm grateful.
Nice. Well, let's hop into it. All right. So this happened, I think, a week and a half ago now. We probably should have talked about it last week, but people probably know, if you're in the independent music space, that Virgin Records, ultimately the parent company, UMG, purchased Downtown, which includes CD Baby, Fuga, Song Trust, a lot of the companies that support or service independent artists. And when that happened, there was a huge uproar. I saw a lot of people talking about how this would impact independent artists in a negative way. I think the purchase was for $775 million. I mean, I have a few thoughts, but what was your guys' first reaction when you saw this? Does it matter? Is it a big deal? Where do you guys fall
It's a
out?
big deal. I have a question, though, because things are trending. God, it's so hard to predict what's really going on. And it's so hard to tell what their intentions are. And when I say they, I just mean the major label corporate structures and entities, because on the one hand, they're investing a lot quietly sometimes loudly into AI. They're fighting the AI platforms, but it feels disingenuous. And then on the other hand, they're buying up catalogs, and they're doubling down on traditional music business models, such as this move. I mean, what it's going to do to independent artists aside, if anything, that depends on what you think is going to happen, it's still interesting that they're investing in these platforms that rely on human artists, and they're investing a lot of money in these, because FUGA and Song Trust and all that, that's not just passive income that's coming in. That's kind of a little bit, but you still have to have hope for the future that real human artists are going to be generating a lot of money off of their music in the next 5, 10, 20 years for that $700 million investment to actually make sense. So it's hard to tell what's going on.
I agree, Payne. It's hard to tell what's going on, but I think for me, the way I'm looking at it, if you look at like titans of their industries and the way that monopolies are created, it's not so much about absorbing things that are going to be functional in the long-term future. I feel like it's more so about eliminating your competition or absorbing your competition. So I think in order to change the dynamic or the stream, if they own all the tributaries, then they can just redirect everything to the main source, right? So I think it's less about their hope for, or I won't even say hope. It's less about their understanding that this is, like, I agree with you. Like, Song Trust isn't a lightweight form of income. Like, but Song Trust is for independent and signed artists, right? You know, I think about Fuga. That's how you say it, Dane? Fuga? Mm-hmm. And Fuga is like, to me, like next to Merlin, like going direct. It's like Fuga, right? Because they have so many different people that they're distributing to. And I know everybody doesn't know these names, but like Fuga is a distribution service. Song Trust is a publishing rights service, songwriters and artists. So it's like, I think to me, Downtown Music Holdings as a whole has been fascinating to me as a company, because it was Downtown Music at first, and then they became the conglomerate Downtown Music Holdings, and that's when they acquired, a bunch of independent resourcing companies under their umbrella, and then they became this massive company, which was somewhat recently. It wasn't like, what was it, like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It's since I've been in the industry. So now for them, so when it happened, people celebrated it if you knew about it, because people were like, oh, this is good for indies because it's all under one umbrella. It's going to be streamlined. And then now it being bought by a major, people are like, it's toast for the indies. I don't know. I think it's an indicator that there is so much coming from the independent music scene that the majors have to get their hands on it in a more tangible way than just distro, because I know a lot of major labels are offering their own distro services, or they're acquiring distro services, like, as y'all know. So acquiring a conglomerate gives them the ability to, again, own more of the supply chain, I think. I just think it's interesting. I can't say if it's good or bad. I think it's the way of the world. I don't enjoy like anything that even looks like a monopoly. And I know people will argue with me that this isn't a monopoly, but I just feel like it does monopolize a lot of things. And it's a trend that means that their competitors are now going to try to acquire more things, and everything is kind of going to look the same. But I also feel like it gives a little bit of hope to indies, because it's like, like, y'all are doing something so right. We are doing something so right that these major, because you guys got to think the record labels are owned by fintech companies, are essentially fintech companies, in my opinion, at this point, right? They're like, I feel like they function that way. So I feel like it's encouraging to see like how big of a factor, how much market share the independent scene has. I think it's a little bit nerve-wracking to think about how much control they have again, but I also feel like the industry is like it's like an atom. It just keeps splitting and splitting and splitting, and then the options keep turning into infinite. Like, we don't live in the same industry anymore. Everything is so siloed. So it's like there's another opportunity for you as an independent artist to say, I'm going to swim upstream or in a different completely direction. I'm going to do something that doesn't need these people. So I think it's an exciting time. I think it's an interesting time. I think that if you're using this as an excuse for another reason to be like, man, this is da-da-da-da, you're already fucked. But I don't know. I think we should just keep watching. I don't think this is something to be ignored, but I don't think it's something that should make you scared.
So for the people painting the doom and gloom picture of like it's over for the indies, like I don't ever hear anything after that. I hear just a shock tagline, and then it's like, why? What's the reason that people have given? I heard one reason. I heard there was a cat, and I forget what his title was, but I think I commented somewhere, and he commented under me. He said bargaining power for independent artists is lessened. But what are we bargaining now? Everybody's complaining about like Spotify royalty rates. We can't bargain for shit now anyway. So what like past the tagline, oh, it's over for independent artists. Like, what does that mean?
I do agree with bargaining, though, because I think about, like, again, going back to Merlin. I know Merlin isn't under this acquisition, but Fuga Merlin has lobbied for better rates for indies. Fuga was a part of that. A2IM. There was a lot of different people that came together for for different things, but I know specifically the Spotify rates for independent artists. But I don't know where that led, what happened to it. So I do think that there could be a little bit less bargaining power because they're owned by the major now. But yeah.
But ain't nobody, the majors already have pretty much control over Spotify. That's why we can't move to a user-centric model. It's why a lot of things don't happen. So for the people saying it's over for the indies because of this acquisition, I don't hear anything after that. They just want to put a tagline on their Instagram post or their YouTube video, but there's no substance under that. It's just to scare people. What is over for the indie? I still don't understand. You're still going to be doing the same thing. You're still tasked with the same thing, being consistent, building and monetizing your community. You still have the tools to do that. As long as you have those tools, you're the game on. So I really don't understand the negative picture here. I feel like every company has a price. We've seen this time and time again. Like a lot of these companies get snatched up. But as long as you have a way to put out music, as long as you have a way to get direct to fans, there should be no doom and gloom picture being painted. So I really don't get the uproar outside of people wanting clicks and wanting to stir up debate and get more engagement on their page. Really, that's all it is to me, because my day yesterday looks the same today. You know, if I'm an independent artist, I'm actually here at Two Loss. I'm happy because a lot of these artists will run from other distributors if they don't want to be under the UMG umbrella, if they feel like that changes things. But I don't even feel like that really changes anything. Like we, at the end of Funk Volume, we had a label services deal with Warner, not ADA, directly with Warner. To me, that didn't change our independent status. Like we still own the masters. We still controlled what we put out. Didn't matter. You're probably gonna get the same service. Now, I do think there's some kind of data play, some kind of AI, some larger play that that probably motivated the acquisition. But in terms of the day-to-day independent picture, like I don't really feel like this changes things at all. If this discourages you, great, you weren't meant for this anyway. Do something else. That's how I feel about it.
I'm with you on the data. I think that's the part that to me makes me feel a little bit leery, but it's like you can't control that. Like Everybody has it. Everybody has it. And I don't want to be one of those people who, because I'm particular about mine specifically, even when it comes to like certain permissions I give my iPhone. There's certain permissions that I don't give Instagram, so I can't utilize certain features. And people all the time are like, they have everything, just give it up. And I'm like, sure. But for me, it gives me like a sense of autonomy, which is a really high value for me. Like I'm choosing to opt into stuff. But like when you look at like the amount of stuff that we authorize and pre-authorize when we're signing away things. So yes, like independent artists, especially the ones coming up under this umbrella, they're getting a ton of your personal data, but about consumption, users.
That ship has sailed. I was listening to a podcast the other day They said with 200 Facebook posts, the algorithm knows you better than your spouse. Like that, your algorithm can predict who you are, your personality, the things you like, things you don't like, as good as or better than your spouse. So that ship has sailed a long time. You guys worried about your data? Your data's already gone. Like whatever you think you did to protect your data gone. It's been gone for a long time ago. So
that's scary. Knows you better than your spouse. That's interesting. I wonder why. I'm not saying that it's not true by and large, but I feel like for outliers, I can't see that being true because I don't think people like any of the three of us post all of our feelings, emotions, thoughts, ideas across 200 posts. Like, I feel like this is feedback I get regularly. When I meet people in person, they're like, oh, you're not at all like I thought you would be. Because my online personality is nothing like, it's not really a personality. It's nothing like what I actually am. So like, I'm wondering, like, is that real? Is that for the vast majority of people? Is that if you don't have a lot of personality? Is that if you don't leave the house? Like, I don't really necessarily know that
Wait a minute though, Aaron, you don't have, I don't know. Every time I log into Facebook, I'm looking at people that I know in real life and I'm thinking, why are you sharing that? I mean, there are people who are sharing things that I don't know I would disclose to anybody outside of the most inner circle in my life. Like publicly posting very graphic sexual fetishes, publicly talking about every, play by play what's going on in their relationship. Side of the
internet on my. That's interesting.
I'm just on Facebook. I'm talking about me, not as DJ Payne 1, on my personal Facebook account, logging on and thinking, "Holy shit, you posted that!" I mean, some of it is just sharing personal information, but a lot of like the play by play job, relationship, friendship venting. I think that, personally, I wouldn't post any of it on there, but shit, in 10 posts, I think I know them better than a lot of people do just by looking at their Facebook posts. So I see that.
I wouldn't be surprised if technology accounts for the outliers, and I don't know how they do it, but I think that even if you feel like you're an outlier, I feel like there's technology that can tag you a certain way, then you
for sure, because the ads be working. So I'm not saying that I'm not just saying I'm so other. Like, even my For You page, it's like black couples, black babies, and salads. That's all I want to look at. So I get you. I'm not saying that I'm this big exception. I'm just saying I don't know that even for me looking at 200 posts, I'd be like, that's an adequate assessment of who I am, because I don't feel like I post that much. I think my consumption habits on the internet could be found, but Facebook posts, I think it would still be like.
But it probably takes that into account too, like your frequency of posts. I think that we have behaviors that we don't even recognize that we do, that it's taken into account and labeling you a certain person. So unless you are completely detached from the internet, I think that there's some algorithm that can predict with pretty high certainty, like the type of person you are and the decisions that you will make. So yeah, if you're tying it back to the downtown and UMG, like if you're worried about data, I feel like, it's a wrap for your data. It was a wrap for your data probably 15 years ago. Independent artists, man, keep your head up. It's still a great time to be an independent artist. Next week, we're going to go over a list of things, reasons why the music industry is a great industry, just to juxtapose the list that was put out by Rob Abelow a couple of weeks ago. Forget the exact title of it, but it essentially was things that the music industry needed to fix, or things that were more negative about the music industry. We're going to flip that on its head and talk about some more positive things next week. So hopefully you're motivated going into 2025. because it's still a great time to be an independent creator, in my opinion.
Okay, so I last week made a video, and it was in response to a Bolo, the producer video. Shout out to him. And it was about, I guess, kind of like aging gracefully as a producer, because I think he's in his 40s. I tied that into that viral clip of that producer, Emrld, who I thought was trolling initially. Let me just share my intro, because, man, if you're making beats and you're over the age of like 27, just stop. No one wants to hear old men making beats.
If you sampling a soul record, get that bullshit out of here. No one's trying to hear that.
They make this old boom bap stuff. No one wants to hear that.
I hate soul, boom bap.
Exactly.
Get that unk shit out of here, bro. I don't like any of that music.
Matter of fact, if you're over the age of 19, you need to quit making beats. On a surface level, I'm saddened that sarcasm is still such a dead language that on Christmas morning, I was getting angry DMs. Let me just read it because it was hilarious. Oh, it's funny. You talk down on old producers. I said, La definitely, you were just the baby. That even more yet. So who I don't know what he's trying to say. He was, when like dudes get emotional, their texts just go crazy and you like all language faculties go out the window. Because your music's not really that good either. It's all fixed. Like, bitch, you never heard my music, because if you did, it's all soul samples and old man shit, if I'm being real. Pioneers don't reason why you're... I can't keep reading this. I feel like I'm having a stroke. But either way, he was really upset with me and was calling me, a young boy and all this shit. And I'm like, but do you see my hairline, sir?
That you're 19?
Really? Do I look 19? If I do, thank you. If you think I actually look 19, I will take that as a compliment and forget all the mean stuff I said about you. Otherwise, I think it's just people not using they're using their lizard brains, not their evolved brains, and just getting really upset. And which is fine. If you want to call me young, I'm just gonna count that as like a net zero. But I really, so like I've always existed in between spaces. Like growing up in the 80s, being biracial, that was a very weird in between space. Not like I'm a victim of anything or anything like that. It's just that, like I would go out and get called a racial slur for this. And then like nowadays I get called a culture vulture because, sometimes depending on the angle of the camera, I'm either white presenting or POC looking. So I don't know. But being young, simultaneously a young boy and an old man, is also a very weird space to be in, because on the one hand, I'm getting all the like, just quit, you're an old ass man, die already. And also on the other hand, little 19-year-old, get out the culture comments. So it's hilarious. But back to that intro video, I was being sarcastic. I thought the guy was being sarcastic, the Emrld dude. I thought he was trolling. Erin disagrees. She thinks it's serious. And there are a lot of producers, a lot of obviously producers from maybe the generation before me and beyond that had a problem with that clip. And it was posted, I thought, out of context. I thought it was a part of a larger interview where he's trolling. And I watched the full thing and it didn't feel like he was trolling. So I think maybe I fucked up and gave him a pass. And then what I realized was that even if he wasn't trolling, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable walking into a certain cultural space and then being sarcastic and joking and jokingly mocking and insulting the fabric of that culture and the history of it. I just wouldn't feel, how. So my question is, what if he's not trolling, or if he is trolling, if he's being sarcastic, what made him feel emboldened to do so brazenly without a sense of backlash or consequences? Because I don't think there's going to be one. I don't think that's going to hurt his relationships at all. Is that a generation gap thing? I don't know.
I just think it's the time that we're in. It's the time that we're in, politically. I mean, you see people jumping out the window, or it's not even really jumping out the window. Like, it's people that want to stir up, a certain amount of, they want a certain amount of uproar. Because when he said that, it didn't even sound like he was comfortable. Like, I feel like he was trolling. Just from that, I didn't see this whole video, but it didn't even sound like he was comfortable saying, but he knew what he was doing.
He's not a comfortable kid, though. Like, if you watch the interview, it's not like he's confident and like, he's like young and he's on right now. It's not, that's just his vibe in general.
Yeah, it looks like that, but that's what a lot of people are doing on the internet right now, whether they believe it or not. They know what the impact is going to be, and they're just, again, looking for views and clicks, and they don't care about your culture. They don't care about, Fat Joe was talking about foundational Black America. Everybody's just talking. Everybody's just talking crazy, and until there are consequences again. Because the benefits in their eyes outweigh the potential consequences, right? Because they're going to get more views. I'm sure there was a lot of engagement on that post, good and bad, probably more good from his community, right? People are just super serving their.
But does it matter at this point? Like you said, it's a sign of the times. Does it matter if it's all bad engagement?
No, it does. I think a lot of people are just super serving their community. And even if their community is excited by hate, what was that comedian that got a little bit of backlash because he opened up for Trump? What was his name?
Kill Tony, yeah.
Kill Tony. But everybody can say these crazy things and like just go back to their community where they're praised for it, right? They'll say crazy things on a bigger platform, get a lot of attention, and get more people to just funnel into their little hate-filled world and continue to get a lot of money and praise in that. And then they'll come out of their little corner and say something crazy on a bigger platform, and that'll funnel more people again into their hate-filled world. That's their play. And you have these little niches of hate and just recklessness, and that's where they make a lot of money. So I think we're giving
him too much credit, though. He's like 19, maybe. I don't think he was doing it for the clicks. I think he really has a complete lack of respect for the culture and doesn't realize, I'm going to spare y'all from making this a racial conversation, but that's what it is to me. It feels like you have come into our culture, but it's never been gatekept, because when we gatekeep it, we're the opposite, and there's no ramifications when you do things to our culture in this country and a lot of times in the world. This is where I feel most of an urgency to gatekeep is my culture. So it's like you can come in, you can land hits, you can be on Genius at 18, 19, 20, and you can say outrageous shit like, I don't want no unk shit. Which to me is like half the audience didn't even know what he was saying with that. Do you know what I'm saying? So even his terminology is cherry picked from our culture, and it really bothered me. And I could tell he wasn't joking because he was just so emphatic about it. And so like respectfully, it wasn't intelligent enough of a conversation for me to think that he was being hyperbolic or saying it in jest and keeping the same tone. I'm like, there's nothing that was intellectually stimulating enough about this for it to indicate to me that he was trying to be tongue-in-cheek or trying to be funny. So it's like he was disrespectful and then doubled down on his disrespect, but it's because he's already been let into the culture and has a massive hit and multiple people in his back pocket who are hiring him to produce.
Time out. Take a step back here. Who the fuck is this? I don't even know who this is. And
he's got a couple of hits.
And what platform? Why does anybody even care what this kid said? What hits does he have, and what platform was this on?
This was on the Radar, which is huge. A lot of really amazing artists on there. And I think the reason he's on there is because he produced a track a couple years ago that went viral on that very platform. I mean, I think exceeded 50 million views just on YouTube alone. But he's kind of like NLE Chopper's go-to producer right now.
So it's like, and then even saying, who is this? That's the internet age. It's like you could have, like you said, somebody over here, they're making a ton of money in their tiny little silo, and then they come out to the masses. It's like the world is super siloed. Like we are nobody in one world and then somebody and really somebody in a whole nother world. So it's like, I don't think that like there's not a lack of merit attached to the fact that we don't know who he is directly. He's kind of like one of the new up and coming producers, but like, what does that actually mean? It's like he could be doing for NLE Chopper, but he's not doing but he's not doing, for this person. But yeah, he has enough notoriety for enough people to say like, yo, this kid is kind of hot right now. I'm not saying that he has a bearing per se on my culture, but he does have a bearing on hip hop culture right now because he's been let in and he's consistently producing. And now he's being seen, even if in a small scene, as an authority in the space, which is why he got interviewed. It's why people resonate with the conversation. It's why he feels like he has the right to say things. My culture, the thing about me is that there are certain things I cannot say out of respect for my predecessors. That's how I grew up, right? That's like a culture of respect that I think comes along with my community. But hip hop doesn't necessarily equate to my community, but I do think that there's a reverence, as it's a deep reverence, you know what I'm saying? Like, for what we're doing, for what we have to offer. And I don't think there's a reverence. He's just making beats. It's the cool thing to do. He was on his computer. He streams. He does whatever. He's just making beats. So he's like, man, I'm not with that unk shit. But for me, I felt like it was really distasteful to say something like that.
Well, yeah. And I think there's that bigger conversation.
What's his name? What's his name?
Emrld without the vowels.
No vowels, Emrld.
Yeah.
E, well, it starts with an E, and then Emrld.
We already lost.
Yeah. But I mean, I didn't know his name until we started recording this, because I saw the clip, then me and Payne talked about it, then I seen a couple other people, and I'm like, I can't keep giving this fuel. And then I watched a bigger part of the interview just to check, to make sure I'm not missing it. And I'm like, no, this kid is not respectfully intelligent enough to troll in this manner.
No, and I think, troll culture is just the internet now, and it's just pop culture. I mean, because everything's monetized now, to the point where the competition is high. I think there was that renaissance of monetization where people were making $1,000 off of Instagram Reels just for posting authentic Reels. And then they started opening up that program for everybody, and that money started drying up, and people realized, I got to say wild shit in order to actually get that algorithmic boost that's going to set me over the edge to where I'm making money again. It's the reason when I go on Facebook, I'll see a post that'll say like, as a man, why are you using tap to pay? As a man, why are you wearing slip-on shoes? Like, just dumb shit. And it goes everywhere. And I know the original poster of that probably made 5,000 just off that one post because it got 200,000 shares. And everybody's angry about it. Rage bait is making a killing. The difference is,
I feel like calling it rage bait, though. I think On the Radar knew it was rage bait, which is the why they picked it up. But I feel like giving him the title of troll takes away the responsibility to own his disrespect. Because you can just, he's just trolling. No, I don't think he's trolling. He's being disrespectful because he doesn't realize what he's saying is crazy as shit. Like, you shouldn't be saying stuff like this. Like, you are a kid white boy coming into the culture that embraced you. Really, a rapper embraced you, and it led to you having a lucrative career, at least at the onset of your career. And now you're disrespecting an entire culture that you haven't studied enough, calling it unk shit. That shit is wild to me. Because a lot of his reference points, it's clear, come from soul music. So it's like, yo, you don't even understand. That's why I'm saying I know that it wasn't trolling, because I feel like there's a lack of depth and understanding that he was completely missing.
Well, even if it wasn't, it's different from just your typical rage bait, because rage bait for the sake of rage is one thing, whereas this is shitting where you sleep. Shitting where you eat, honestly. Let's be real.
That's what I'm saying. This shit is dumb. But the problem is we won't gatekeep him. Now, I wish rappers, I wish NLE Chopper, I wish all of us would be like, cool, fuck you, and just let it go. Because that's how you gatekeep culture. When people violate the rules, you get kicked out. You're not allowed into Wakanda anymore, right? You're not even allowed into the outskirts of Wakanda. Like, get the fuck out. And that's what I wish would happen. But instead, it blows up. up, it becomes a meme, people laugh about it. Now his name gets spread, and folks will be like, man, let me check out bruh's beats. Oh, they're not too bad. I could fuck with bruh. And then he's in the studio somewhere, and I'm like, this shit is wild to me. We're sitting here talking about it, giving his name some not props, but we're propping up his name, and now people are gonna go look into him, and they're gonna critique his beats. They're gonna think about what they like about him. I'm like, this shit is sick.
I mean, like you said, I think it's a huge problem with the young rappers today too, that won't say anything and maybe don't even understand the disrespect. Like, there's such a lack of knowledge, a lack of history, that they don't even understand or care that they should step in and say something. The flip side of this is it could have been the setup for a crazy record, right? Like if this was trolling and he dropped a slapper, like soulful record with That Only Chopper like the next day, that could have been a crazy like rollout
featuring Ari Lennox and Joey Badass.
That.
Yeah, that could have been a dope rollout for a song. But I don't want to give this cat any more time.
Well, okay, but fine. But zooming out, we're in a weird space culturally because I don't, this was years ago and I had to unfollow some people. There was an artist who was using the N-word hard R in some of his songs and it was going viral and it got him a bunch. I mean, he was already a multi-millionaire rapper and I'm looking at who's supporting him and rappers want to do songs with him because he's successful. And that's what I mean by the gatekeeping. And then do you remember, I don't want to say this other guy's name, but this guy, Tom McDonald, right? And people are like, he's misunderstood. He's okay, whatever, man. I'm not getting into it. He did a song with Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, the notorious R word that ends with a T that YouTube doesn't like me saying, who tweeted, if you wear your pants below your butt, don't bend the brim of your cap and have an EBT card, 0% chance you will ever be a success in life. That tweet is live. He didn't even delete it. He is one of the most vile human beings on the planet. And this rapper who in a song mused about his oppression as a white Canadian for not being able to say the N-word as he pleases, put Ben Shapiro on a song. And Nicki Minaj kind of tweeted a little cute tweet about it. And I'm like, this is where we are right now really? We basically have Bull Connor.
We're way past that. It gets way worse. I mean, there's no morals, there's no integrity. I don't expect much from people these days, and I'm not shocked by anything these days because where we're at.
Anything for a check.
Yeah, people are grimy out here.
Folks be thinking it's hyperbole when you say, folks sold their soul. And this is to me the first step. Like, you're willing to, for even if it's momentary, renegotiate your values for a check. And folks are like, nah, it's not that deep. Folks got families to feed. And I'm just like, why would you put yourself in the position? It's either excessive greed or stupidity. But like, why is it that you have to now, and I know everybody makes mistakes, but you having to go back and be like, I'm not actually affiliated with that, or no, I don't really rock with that. It was just about this. And it's like, yo, this shit is sick. That's like with drug dealers. The Ad Council, shout out to the Ad Council. They have a crazy drug campaign out right now about fentanyl. And they have like ex-drug dealers coming to teach high schoolers, which I think is super effective because, nobody my age smokes cigarettes for real now because of what the Ad Council did with the DARE campaign, or not DARE, what was after it, the cigarette campaign. That joint was super effective. Now they're on kids about fentanyl. And they're talking about all the things, fentanyl does this. And the one kid goes, if y'all know what fentanyl does to people, why are y'all selling it if you know it could literally kill the person that you're selling to right now? And the ex-drug dealer looks at him and says, it's all about the money. And you could see all the kids just being shocked. They're like, wait, you could be killing the person that you're serving right now and you don't care. And I think that's what people don't realize. People do not care about other people. People are so interested in their bottom line right now that they're willing to say anything is negotiable as long as you meet my price. That's why a lot of people, there's a community of folks in this industry who say, everybody has a price. And I personally don't think that my price has anything to do with the dollar amount. In fact, I know it doesn't. And it frustrates me that so many people do, because it's like you're wagering like lives because like you said, Nicki Minaj does this thing. It suddenly tells everybody else that it's okay to do that thing. It's okay to negotiate your integrity for this moment because it's just a moment. And it's like these moments matter.
I mean, it's anything for a dollar, and then it's also the lack of education. Like, just the conversations have changed over the years. Even about, I'm my mom's white, my dad's black. Like, even that, like the young kids that I talk to, like, it was never a conversation growing up because we knew our history and what has happened in this country, and race is a socially constructed construct. Most people understood what that means and what has happened in this company with the paper brown, the brown paper bag test, like the pencil test, like all these things, if the one drop rule, but all of that is being stripped out of our education. Books are being burned in Florida. So the conversations around race or anything sensitive is totally different. You're getting your information from the internet, which is probably, your algorithm has shown you some things that are probably not accurate, and are radicalizing young people at a very young age. And so I think it's a lot of just disinformation, not misinformation, disinformation, coupled with just a capitalistic mindset where you just got to do anything to get a dollar, and you don't care who you harm or affect in the process.
Well, and that's the issue, because hip hop used to be the antidote for that. All the disinformation, all the indoctrination that you would get from mainstream America, you would listen to hip hop, and Chuck D called it the Black CNN. It was just, you couldn't listen and really, I mean, maybe you could, because a lot of those people grew up to be right-wing assholes, the hip hop fans, but it was hard to be a Public Enemy fan and a Brand Nubian fan, whoever, and not get a little radicalized by them and not think, okay, who are they talking about? H-Rap Brown, let me read some of that. That I was already radicalized, but I did look at when I would listen to, the earlier pioneers of conscious rap. It was just rap. To me, it was just hip hop. That was what the spirit of the culture was supposed to be. Up until, like the Dead Prez era, it was hard for me to listen to that and not look up some of the things they were referencing. So I was a kid reading, Angela Davis. Not that those books weren't already in the house. It just pushed me towards it. But there were kids who didn't have those books in the house. And then they went off maybe to college and suddenly their worldview changed. But I think what's really tragic, and I'll end on here, and this is, it's sad, but it also shows that we still have a lot of the power, not necessarily to just gatekeep, but to reach and bridge gaps. Because I feel like, granted, we talked about, the disrespect from the young community coming into the culture, but a lot of the so-called old head producers, especially, unfortunately, contributed to that gap. I remember, the whole DAW wars, and even people like Ninth Wonder, who are, I would say, objectively positive forces in the culture, were getting a lot of backlash just for using a digital audio workstation to make beats. And it wasn't because they were coming in puffing their chest out saying, we're the young dudes, fuck all you old guys. It was because the old guys were looking down at them like, why, you're using a computer to make beats? We can't have that. And so a lot of that, that rift was unfortunately people from the generation before, because I'm funny enough, there are now old head producers who came up on DAWs, who came up on FL Studio and Logic and, whatever was coming out in the very early 2000s. A lot of those people are in their 40s now. Some of them are in their 50s. And so what a crazy time. But I feel like there was an opportunity there for the producers to bring the new generation in and say, okay, this is cool. Let me just suspend judgment and see what it is and then mentor some of these younger dudes that are coming in using technology. I don't understand, so we can bridge that gap for the sake of preserving things overall. And that unfortunately didn't happen. A lot of people were reactive. And I think that just widened the gap. And now here we are where people will make music and not call it what it is. And it's controversial to say this is hip hop or this is black music. Say that shit, you'll get a backlash. And that's unfortunate.
I think the difference is, and you see it in like sports as well, is like this younger generation is different and they'll like disrespect back. Like, I think it's normal for like older heads when they see things changing to kind of react a certain way and sometimes negative. But I don't think like people in my generation like barked back the way that young people will bark back today. Like even
because there were consequences for that.
Yeah, because even with like the NBA, right? Who was it earlier this year? I think Anthony Edwards said something disrespectful about like the older generation, like LeBron's era. Like when LeBron's era came, like there were definitely some old heads that hated on the newer era of basketball, but you never heard LeBron's era like bark back too much. Right now in this new era, like with the Anthony Edwards, and there was somebody else that said something crazy about the older heads. I mean, things evolve. Like the athletes, I don't care at what metric you look, like there's better athletes in the league today than there were, just like, people get faster, people get stronger. Like that's just the nature of how we develop. But I think that's the difference between the younger generation today and like the younger generation of my era is like, we kind of just took it, but we had more respect to like disrespect people that came before us. This new generation, I just don't think there's respect. It's kind of like if you say something and there's no history or knowledge of like the lineage, so they feel like it's okay to just talk crazy. So some people might be like, well, if they talking crazy to me, I'm gonna talk crazy to them back. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Now we're getting into other subjects because there are a lot of people. I think growing up, we had a little more impulse control. We had a little smaller of a chip on our shoulder. And now I'm just looking at the whole world and I'm like, wow, it's on fire. Okay, cool. Yeah, no wonder everyone is so high strung. And especially, younger kids working in school is crazy. The tension. I mean, like, am I wrong? I mean, I go in there every year into schools and from one year to the next, you notice a difference. You're like, wow, things. And I'm not blaming the kids. It's not their fault. And I'm talking about little kids.
It's
like
the kids, it's the parents, it's the teachers. Like
it's
I
the system, it's the world, it's the food, it's the media.
It's the lack of sunlight. It's the no activity outside, no arts in school. Yeah, eating food like substances instead of real food. It's cooked.
Yeah, this podcast about to turn into something else, but we do have a huge problem in terms of how we are educating or not educating our young folks and giving. I think education in its entirety just needs to be revamped. We got to take a fresh look at things and how young people are learning today. I think it's crazy to me. Like there should definitely be a class about how to use the internet, not like how to turn on my computer, but like how to disseminate information, how to receive information, how to, double check what you're receiving is accurate, how to properly research. Cause,
when I was in middle school and the internet was becoming like, I guess they just like knew we were going to have to use it. Cause like internet came around when I was like in elementary school. We started using it in school, I think when I was in the 8th grade. And I had to take a class in the 8th grade. And it was about like safety. It was about fact checking. And that's back before Wikipedia was as verified. So my teacher, like in the class, she was like, go look on Wikipedia, look up X, Y, and Z. And this person looks something up, and she's like, read me the first 3 lines. And then I like distinctively remember this. We were in the computer lab, and then she called on somebody else, and she's like, type in da-da-da, go look up the first 3 lines. And the lines had already, it was 2 different, it was the same article, but on Wikipedia, but she had gone in and just changed, because, back then you could make edits. And then she was just like, do you understand why we need to have like our own pragmatic thoughts? And this is why you cite your sources. Because, when you used to have to write research papers, you couldn't just get away with one source. You had to get at least 3 sources for each thing that you were citing as a fact. Folks be like, one TikTok video that functions with the bias that I already have, we're locked and loaded. And the thing that pisses me off about that is, like, as somebody who has lived and experienced a lot of these things, if I tell somebody I think you should do X, Y, and Z, they're like, okay, I don't know about that. Then a month or 2 later, they're like, yo, I saw this TikTok video and I think I'm like, yo, you remember the conversation we had? And then it turns into you always just think you're right. And it's like, yo, so like the TikTok video could just always be right, but I can't say that I brought this to you. So I don't know. I think pragmatic thinking, I think discernment, I think, again, community and culture. People are leaving their kids to the computers, and that shit is sick. And when I say kids, I'm not just talking about 5 and 6 year olds. I'm talking about 15 and 25 year olds. My mom is still consistently disrupting the flow of my thought. Like, where'd you get that from? Why do you think that that's true? I'd be like, damn,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what real community does. And I feel like that's why I don't get super bothered when people get rubbed the wrong way from me. Like, that's my job here on earth. I'm sandpaper. I'm either going to smooth you out or I'm going to rough you up. But it's like, there's got to be people like us in the community saying things that make you at least think. If you're always upset by what we're saying, maybe just have a moment of pause and like hold it. But I don't know. The internet is a wild place.
Yeah, I would just, like, before you share stuff, just double check. There was literally a video the other day about affordable housing in LA. And I watched it and it got me upset. So I sent it to one of the homies that works in affordable housing here. I was like, hey, is what this cat saying true? He wrote me back a huge paragraph, basically destroying, everything that this person said. They was just trying to get, maybe they didn't understand. Again, misinformation is information that doesn't really have like malintent. Disinformation is, I know this is wrong, but I'm trying to manipulate people for some type of gain, right? So I don't know if it's misinformation or disinformation or a combination of both, but people are out here just saying whatever, so you got to double check. Hopefully you have some people that you can bounce things off of. And, in music, you can always come to the MEC and get the facts. So that's what we're here for. I'm not saying we're right on every single thing. A lot of this stuff is subjective.
But we gonna research. We not just flying off the handle. And we got good intent. We ain't looking for a viral moment. Clearly, we've been here for a long time. We ain't looking for a viral moment.
All right. Well, wow. What an optimistic episode. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you for following us and listening to our podcast. Thank you for all the feedback, all the time, all the topic suggestions. We appreciate it. And big shout out to everyone that's giving us feedback on signing up for free music distribution, because that's also dope. You're joining Kanye West on Too Lost distribution. So go to toolost.com, use the code MEC and get 3 months free. Become the next Kanye. And we'll pay your producers though, please. And you can upload a lot of music, instrumentals, songs, all types of stuff. Whatever's sitting on your hard drive, it's not doing any good just sitting on your hard drive. And, as we constantly say, right now is a great time because the labels are shutting down. So that's what's funny, regardless of how much they monopolize the music business, including the indie stuff, they're still going to shut down for 2 months.
Yeah, them folks clock out for real.
Yeah, so take advantage of that, and we will catch you on the next episode. Peace.